Mr. Hayes?
On for sentencing today, the defense is requesting a SOSA. The state and victim are opposed to the SOSA. We're asking for standard range sentence. We're asking for the top of the range, 61 months. The SOSA statute talks about what's in the best interest of the community. It also talks about whether or not the SOSA sentence is too lenient. And it also talks about the fact that great weight has to be given to the victim's opinion. And
What's the range? They now just put the...
I think it was 46 to 61.
That's correct. 6 points, 46 to 61 on all three counts by my information. This was a father-daughter situation, and the reason I say it's a little lenient is that this is kind of the worst abuse of trust you can imagine. In his evaluation, he does take some responsibility, but also puts some of the blame on her, indicating that she initiated this and he just went along with it, even though he shouldn't have. I think that's obviously a mischaracterization of what's going on here, and a shirking of some, not all, but some of the responsibility he bears for this. The victim advocate is here. The victim did want her statement read aloud to the court, but due to the seriousness of the abuse of trust here and father-daughter relationship, I think SOSA is a little too lenient, and furthermore, the victim's opposed to it. Otherwise, asking, I had him credit, as of the last hearing date we had set, up until January 6, 2014, I had 163 days credit, so I'm not sure how many days have passed since January 6th, but whatever that would be, adding that to 163 would be his credit at this point, asking for all the conditions that were in the plea agreement attached to the guilty plea form, Your Honor. If the court does grant SOSA pursuant to our agreement, we would in that situation be asking for 61 months with all but 365 days suspended.
And did you want the statement read out loud?
Yeah, that was the victim's request. They live in Las Vegas and obviously couldn't be here.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Dee Dee Pegler. I'm the advocate assigned for the case. The first statement I have is from the victim. She says, "This whole situation has greatly affected me because I trusted Dustin like any child would with their parent. This has scarred me physically, mentally, and emotionally to the point that I can't be myself. I have fears of men now because of what has been done to me. I have nightmares on a regular basis now. It sickens me that a parent would ever do the things that he has done to me. He needs to pay for the crimes he has committed and never be allowed around children again. Even the maximum time in prison would not be long enough. I hope he rots in prison." I also have a statement from the victim's mother. "Dustin is a monster who needs to remain away from the public. For someone to willingly hurt a child, especially their own child, the way he has scarred our daughter is unforgivable. He deserves the maximum time possible for everything he has put her through. It will take my daughter years to recover from the damage done to her if she can ever fully recover from this. I pray when his sentence is decided that he gets the worst possible so that when he does get out, he won't be damaging other young children, including his 3-year-old daughter. I worry for any child who may ever come into contact with this man. He has never felt remorse for anything he has ever done, and I don't think it's possible either. Thank you."
Thank you. Mr. Shealy?
Thank you, Your Honor. The reports that were prepared for the court, there was a pre-sentence investigation. Your Honor's had a chance to review, I'm sure, in the psychosexual evaluation done by Dr. Sen. And Dr. Sen's evaluation, again, chronicles some of the client's early social history, which comes across as fairly unremarkable, and then goes through the fact that he, there were some school issues. There was a work history that client has where he's been able to always get work and recent job, I think at Home Depot he's had for about 3 years prior to this. The situation regarding the actual testing that was done on Mr. Armstrong gave him generally good marks throughout, that he would be very amenable to treatment, he was a low risk for reoffense, that he didn't really have cognitive distortions of the type that rationalize the behavior he did with children, that the static 99, I think, gave him a very low score. That was one that looked as, again, future the risk of a future reoffense based on looking at a number of factors they had, and the other stable of tests that group of tests that Dr. Sen ran through, the stable 2007 and combining that with the static test and acute 2007, he came up with a low current risk for sexual and violent recidivism and a low risk for general recidivism. He was not deceptive on his polygraph. There were obviously the fact that it was, his own child in this situation, but I don't think it's fair to, I'm just saying in the past, I think one of the best performers I think I ever had in terms of going through a SOSA was a client who was his own child. We had to get him into work release in Oregon to complete it because he wouldn't take him at the time, Hank Rose, under the old system where you could actually go out and do work release, and he completed it. I've contacted him over the years. He's kept his job, even reconciled with his child. So that's part of the situation we have with SOSA, is that we understand that sometimes they're going to be stepchildren, their own children. It's a situation in sex crimes. These things happen. I think it's factored into the offense. And one of the things, I understand I'm not in their shoes, but I understand the victim's pain is profound. We can't say that there's anything other but that. But
This isn't a stepchild, though.
No, I know. It is the natural child, right. But the situation, I'm just saying that they come in all forms, stepchildren, natural children, in terms of the victims that occur in these cases. But in the situation here, I think the victims are in a human tendency to want to, I don't want to say lash out, but have the same kind of pain they felt was inflicted on them, inflicted on the person that did this to them. And that's a very human response. SOSA really has kind of a different directive in that it wants to assure for the community safety, but it also wants persons a chance to work through the situation and confront in a very systematic and obviously therapeutic way that they've got to really tackle this thing head on and see that there is, that this thing is any potential for any future recidivism is arrested and stopped, because if it doesn't, there'll be more people hurt, and obviously the person themselves can land in jail for the rest of their lives. I think obviously the family situation that Mr. Armstrong has with his own family knows paints a somewhat different picture of this first familial situation that was really, in a sense of his getting along with his first. They were never married. It was not a very good situation in terms of them ever being life partners, and I think Mr. Armstrong recognized that and moved on from it. His situation with his child was just was a very bad situation at the end there, and it was inexcusable conduct. And I think Mr. Armstrong recognizes that. He said that. And I think the PSI writer both noted that he did have remorse for his actions and understood that this was a grave offense that he committed. So that's there. And in this case, the DOC, again, whereas I believe the last case they had some reservations. I don't recall, although he pointed some things out, I don't recall that Mr. Lane really expressed any reservations, but just said he concurred in the recommendation that the Dr. Sen was making for SOSA. And I think Mr. Armstrong, if he's granted the opportunity to do a SOSA program, would be able to, his family would be able to produce a residence for him and would basically pay him either in Oregon, come over here, or in the state of Washington, if that's where it would have to be. And I think they'd be in a position to get his apartment set up, and so when his release date comes, if he stays a full year, he'd be able to go right into that transition into a situation where he'd do his treatment and jump to the other hoops he's going to have to, which are going to include registration for a substantial period of time, I believe at least 15 years in his situation. So we're asking that he be afforded an opportunity to do SOSA. I think it's in the best interest of all parties concerned and possibly even the victims, though they might not recognize it at this time. And we hope that Your Honor would choose that. But it's ultimately Your Honor's decision. And that's all I have to say about it.
What do you want to tell me, Mr. Armstrong?
I have no words that I know in the English language, or any language for that matter, to express the depth of my sorrow for how sorry I am for this, for how awful I feel for what I've done to my daughter. I was just hoping that, I would get treatment so I can fix the problem that's broken. I mean, obviously something's wrong in there, and it needs to go through treatment to be fixed, and that's what I was hoping for. The opportunity to get that treatment and get that fixed.
This is one of the more disturbing cases that I've read a PSI on in a long time. I think it's most disturbing because this is your daughter, and you refer to her mother as, I think the direct quote from the PSI, as a whore that slept around. And then I look at your reference to her. I think the PSI writer's quoting from Dr. Sand's report. Mr. Armstrong said his actions were unprovoked and he would never do such a thing again. He was disgusted with himself that he cheated on his wife and, quote, damaged his daughter. He wants to know if she was already damaged and if she needs help. He said he feels sorry for her but doesn't want to think about her. I hope she can find help in life. I don't want anything to do with her. I think I'm done with her in my life. The whole, it's very disturbing, this whole case. This child is in your household. It's the ultimate abuse of trust.
I understand that.
The things you admitted to are far worse crimes than you pled guilty to. I think you've gotten a huge benefit of a plea bargain, and I have great concerns. Number one, I take the victim input very seriously and whether to grant SOSA or not, and they are strongly against it. There's a number of factors that makes the court think that that's not the best option in this case. And one of them is kind of your attitude about her and the ongoing substance abuse problems, particularly alcohol in this case. I don't think you're a good candidate for community-based treatment, so I am going to sentence you to 61 months. And all the other conditions that are part of the plea offer will be put in place.
All right.
Signed the order for HIV testing. By my calculation, then that would be 235 days credit for time served. So